Did you know that in 1553, the Norwegians invented the toilet seat? Really? Really? Yeah. Later, the Italians invented the hole in the middle of it. Well, I was at his banquet one time, and my false teeth were hurting me. So the guy sitting next to me reaches into his pocket and pulls out some dentures and says, "Here, try these." So I do, but they're too tight. He gives me another set. He says, "Try these." I try them and they're fine. I wait them for the rest of the banquet. Then I give them back. I say, "Thanks. Lucky for me, I was sitting next to a dentist." He says, "Hell no, I'm an undertaker."
And it just happened. Carrying the teeth around.
Let's see. Oh, lawyer-judge jokes. What is the difference between a wood tick and a lawyer? A wood tick will fall off you when you die. Now, the airliner was having engine trouble, so the cabin crew told the passengers to take their seats and prepare for an emergency landing, which they all did, except for a lawyer who went around passing out business cards. Oh, yeah. We know how they are. A priest and a lawyer died and went to heaven on the same day, and St. Peter showed them both to their rooms. The lawyer's room was extremely large and lavish, but the priest's room was a little 10 by 10 cell with but one window and a cot. The priest said, "St. Peter, I've spent my entire life serving God. Why do I get a crummy room and the lawyer gets the best room?" St. Peter replied, "Well, we get thousands of priests up here, but this is the first lawyer we've ever had." What do you have when you got 6 lawyers buried up to their necks in sand?
That's a good start.
Not enough sand. Let's see. Okay, here's one I'll just read cold. The teacher was asking her students what their parents did for a living, and Timmy stood up and said, "My daddy's a doctor, and my mommy's a doctor too." And little Sarah stood up and said, "My mommy's an engineer, and my daddy's an accountant." And then little Billy stands up and says, "My mommy's a writer, and my daddy plays the piano in a whorehouse." Well, the teacher was horrified, and later she called Billy's father and said, "Why would you ever tell your child a thing like that?" And the father said, "Well, actually, I'm a defense lawyer, but how do you explain such a thing to a 7-year-old?
Alrighty.
We'll just go with the piano player in the whorehouse.
Yeah. Well, one more lawyer joke?
One more lawyer. Let's hear it.
I can keep going. I got a whole book full. The lawyer is cross-examining the doctor about whether he checked the pulse of the deceased before he signed the death certificate. "No," he said, "I didn't check his pulse." "And did you listen for a heartbeat?" said the lawyer. "No, I did not," said the doctor. "So," said the lawyer, "when you signed the death certificate, you had not taken steps to make sure he was dead." And the doctor said, "Well, let me put it this way. The man's brain was in a jar on my desk, and for all I know, he could be out practicing law somewhere." Well, how about this? A New York man was forced to take a day off work to appear for a minor traffic summons. He grew increasingly restless as he waited hour after endless hour for his case to be heard. When his name was called late in the afternoon, he stood before the judge only to hear that court would be adjourned and he would have to return the next day. "What for?" he snapped at the judge. His Honor, equally irked by a tedious day in the sharp query, roared, "$20 for contempt of court. That's why." Then, noticing the man checking his wallet, the judge relented. "Oh, well, that's all right. You don't have to pay now." The man replied, "I'm just seeing if I have enough for 2 more words." "Are you a lawyer?" "Yes." "How much do you charge?" $100 for 4 questions. "Isn't that awfully expensive?" "Yes." "What's your 4th question?" What did the lawyer name his daughter? Sue.
Oh, of course.
Ew. Oh.
I thought it
How
was
about,
the Lord.
how about an engineer joke?
Yeah, I'd love to hear one.
The mathematician, the physicist, and the engineer were given a red rubber ball and told to find the volume. So the mathematician measured the diameter and evaluated a triple integral. The physicist filled a beaker with water, put the ball in the water, and measured the total displacement. And the engineer looked up the model and serial number in his red rubber ball table.
My dad has one of those.
You know, it's funny. My father was one of the finest machine builders back in the day of manual machining before lasers and so forth. One of the finest, most accurate machine builders in the world, working for Moore Special Tool Company in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Never got any credit for it. And in fact, Dick Moore's son, Wayne Moore's son, Dick Moore's son, Wayne Moore, got his doctorate off my father's work on how to scrape in surface plates without using a master plate. And he would never teach me the trade because he said they use you and abuse you like a tissue and they throw you away when you're done, when they're done with you. So that story about the engineer and everything, it's so good, it's so true.
Yeah.
But the optimist sees a glass that's half full, the pessimist sees a glass that's half empty, an engineer sees a glass that's twice as big as it needs to be. The secretary was leaving the office when she saw the CEO standing by a shredder with a piece of paper in his hand. "Listen," said the CEO, "this is a very important document. Can you make this thing work?" The secretary turned the machine on, inserted the paper, pressed the start button. "Great," said the CEO as the paper disappeared inside the machine. "I just need one copy."
What?
Yeah.
I think maybe, you know what? I'll let somebody else take over.
Yeah.
And if you need more, I got a
that's
big thick
great.
book
That's
full.
great.
That's an excellent time to wrap up, Randy. Way to go. Give it up for Randy, everybody.